fell asleep amid the flowers for a couple of hours on a beautiful day.
Welcome back to Ripe Avocados. Today, if you haven't guessed it by the sign behind me or the title, we're going to do Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And yeah, Sean's going to review it. If you're new to the channel, we're going to summarize it, and then we're going to score it. And then we're going to talk about each of the 4 categories that we always do on this channel: entertainment, characters, cinematography, and writing. And it'll be encapsulated into one final score. But if you haven't seen this movie and you don't want it to be spoiled, skip to the scores, and then we'll have a final score. Thumb or timestamp at the end as well. Just go to those because we will definitely ruin the entire movie for you, and we won't care either because this is me warning you. So let's get into it. What was this one about?
So, Final Reckoning picks up where Dead Reckoning left off. This is the final installment, at least to the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible universe. I'm sure in 30 years they're going to be remaking this with some hot new actor, and they're going to have a whole bunch of new Mission Impossible movies. But this movie, it spends the first hour and change just being a montage of all the previous Mission Impossible movies, which is pretty sick, in all fairness. A lot of great stunts, a lot of cool action sequences, and they cover that again in the first hour and a half. And then the last hour and a half is basically Tom Cruise trying to stop 75 million nukes from getting set off and ending the world. And like every Mission Impossible, I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on this because I love the Mission Impossible movies, but the movie is set up where the plot is just this extreme situation. Like I said, a bunch of nukes are about to get set off, and the movie is set up to like this one big action sequence, and it's Tom Cruise on a plane, like an old, I don't even know what they're called, bi-wing planes or some shit like that.
They're biplanes.
And
these are specifically used for stunts.
Yeah, and he's chasing Gabriel, and he's literally jumping from plane to plane. It's like a 20-minute action sequence of them fighting on those planes. And he's got to get the little chip that Luther made to insert it in this thing to send coordinates to his team to then stop the nukes from being set off. I mean,
Does he?
It's Mission Impossible, man. It's impossible to do, but he finds a way.
So let's score it, and then we could really dissect this whole thing. So entertainment, I went 7-1 here for entertainment.
Okay, entertainment, I went 7-9.
Okay, characters, I went 6.5.
Characters, I went 7.5.
Cinematography, I went 9.7.
Cinematography, I went 9.0.
And then writing, I went 6.0.
Writing, I went 7.0.
Okay, so we'll get into the entertainment first. I thought this movie was, you're going to agree with this, it was way too fucking long, right?
Oh, I thought it was perfect.
Shut the fuck. No,
yeah, no.
The first
any movie
hour,
that's 3 hours, I'm already like, God.
It has to be The Godfather or Interstellar. I don't even think Interstellar is 3 hours.
Or Infinity War. And
Yeah.
Infinity War is like 2 hours, 40 minutes. So
this was technically like 2:49, but they could have cut. They definitely could have cut a solid 45 minutes of pointless dialogue out of this movie. The amount of times they just say the entity and Madam President and the amount of time they're just in the war room with these politicians, I thought that was all really pointless shit. I guess I understand why they had a couple scenes from there, but there were just so many instances that were dragged out to me. And I saw this thread on Letterboxd, and I thought it encapsulated it pretty well. This movie had 2 unbelievably good stunts. We talked about the biplanes, and then we had this unbelievable underwater scene where he's going down to retrieve the original hard drive from the entity. And it's these 2 scenes encapsulated with like 2 hours of just pointless talking. And that's sort of what ruined it for me. I would consider myself a diehard Tom Cruise fan, diehard Mission Impossible fan. I've seen all of these movies. Maybe not all of them multiple times, but we're gonna rank them actually in a second here. I was just thoroughly disappointed with this one. I just didn't think it held up to the recent bar that we've seen. In terms of the last few ones we've watched, I think this was definitely one of the worst ones, but it's all relative, you know?
Two things. One, I do agree with you. I feel like I did like Dead Reckoning, but I will say this movie and the last movie, I think the general public has kind of grown to this hype around Tom Cruise and his stunts. Like, every stunt he does in Mission Impossible is the next big thing. I mean, he fucking jumped a dirt bike off a giant cliff. Like, it's insane, but the whole movie is then fixated around, okay, when is this big stunt gonna happen? I can't wait to see this big stunt. And it's amazing, but like, I feel like sometimes it kind of takes away from the whole plot of the movie. The second part is, you said you watched this 2 times, and you said on the second go you kind of liked it a little bit better. So what changed on that second go, you think?
It's honestly a good... I think I just picked up on the things that they were talking about. When I was watching it for the first time, I was trying to just track the overall story. So there were pieces of it where they would reference details about the key and details about the poison dart that Luther was creating. Both times, I thought Luther's death, yes, Luther does die, was one of like the stupidest on-screen ways he could have died in all of the franchise. They also don't show him actually dying, so I think they kind of leave that door open for him to survive. I haven't looked into Ving Rhames' contract. I'm assuming he just got fed up with the whole production like Rebecca Ferguson did, and she just... Because Rebecca Ferguson, similar to what I'm complaining about, apparently she just didn't like how the dialogue of these movies came to be. It sounds like Tom Cruise and the director of the recent ones literally will come up with lines going into shooting days where they don't even really know how the plot's going to work, and then they just kind of finagle it to go along with these ridiculous stunts that they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. They're trying to highlight all these crazy stunts, which is dope, but it takes away from the plot of the movie. The dialogue, the writing, it all kind of gets hindered.
This is a really old man take, I'd say. I just thought that there was a lack of urban settings and just a lack of diverse landscapes that they go to. It seems like most of this movie is either in the tundra, underwater obviously, and just in a cave. Like in the beginning, Luther dies. My brother said something to me when I was watching. He was like, why are they always just hanging out in like a subway station? And that shit's hilarious to me. I like that. There's no reason why Luther should be getting operated on underneath a train station in Paris or whatever. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I miss the espionage, like I was talking about with you before. Like the first one's in Prague, and it's super cool. They have to get dressed up and go to these charity events or nightlife events to do recon and stuff, and there really wasn't any of that in this movie, which I think it could have had a bit of, because they can fill in. I guess they had the first scene where they take out those 2 guards, but then they immediately get kidnapped.
Yeah.
I just think overall it was way too much build-up dialogue and the president and her team informing one another that, yes, nuclear war is bad. They could have had that all in one scene. It was just so repetitive to me, and it got way too out of hand.
So I didn't mind the war room scenes. I knew where it was going, though. I knew she wasn't gonna set off the nukes. Like that.
What city was she gonna nuke, dude? What city?
Probably Fairfax, Virginia.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what the fuck is that? No, I have no idea. Like Chicago.
They said it was 100. They said it was 100 million lives to save whatever 6 billion or 7 billion. So I'd imagine she was just gonna nuke all the big cities, but
probably.
And then she wasn't gonna tell her son. They were
Yeah.
like, are you gonna call him? She's like, what? Hey, buddy, look up. I don't know. Like, that shit was so ridiculous to me.
I don't know if I missed that earlier in the movie, but I thought they were like, hey, do you want to call your son because you're about to nuke him? Or like, he was just in the military and just wanted to, they were like, hey, do you want to like talk to him before the world ends? I legit thought like she was going to send a nuke to where her son was at. That way it would seem more sincere, like, oh my god, the president's son died, but she made the right decision, or whatever the case. But
or she's like estranged from her his father, so she's gonna nuke where he's living or whatever. It's like, do you want to call dad one more time? I don't know. I also thought that what was I gonna say? The whole I understand the allure of the earlier movies, but they made such a case in point to create that Dark Knight meme at the end of the movie where
oh my god,
Christian Bale is just looking at guys nodding. The amount of times Tom Cruise is told that he is God and the most unbelievable person ever because he doesn't care about anybody but his team. We know this shit. We've watched 7 movies of Mission Impossible. Like, I fucking know Ethan Hunt is a badass and he doesn't care about himself over other people. It just, that alone was probably 5-10 minutes of screen time that they just wasted. And we don't really, like, I get you have to build up these sentimental moments to make the viewers care and stuff, but the dude who worked at the Black Vault in Langley, they introduced him like 3 different times as this guy who Ethan, stole this hard drive for with all these agents on in the first movie. And I got it the first time, and then they just kept explaining it to me. I could have done way better with just less movie time there, or just throw in some more scenes of him doing wind sprints for no fucking reason. I would have loved that.
When you were talking about Luther's death kind of being underwhelming a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk more about that.
Bro, let's talk about the fact that Ethan Hunt ran across the city because he knew Luther was about to die instead of, I don't know, maybe getting in a car, doing something. Dude, get a bird, rent a scooter, something to get there faster.
I think Ethan Hunt can run faster than a bird, but I do like you thinking outside the box there.
You haven't seen people move on birds, bro. People be flying on birds.
The other thing I didn't understand was they had this scene at the very end where I'm not even going to remember the guy's name. The dude with the Asian wife, or the Native American wife.
Oh yes,
I think she was. I don't know what her ethnicity was. Okay. They are defusing a bomb very similar to the one Luther defuses, but they just use these fucking confusing terms to basically tell us that all 3 of them can actually live. Yeah. Even though at the beginning he's like, one of us is going to have to die here. And then they're like, actually, no one has to die. And I did like how they had the black guy say, I'm just going to stay here because I have nothing to do in the server room. Because he didn't do anything the whole movie. And I'm going to just transition us into the characters here. I just thought there were way too many characters in his group. I don't think any of them acted the part badly at all. I think Haley Atwell is great. Simon Pegg, I got to give a shout out to him. He's got to be the best in the chair guy in any spy franchise movie scene ever.
Agreed.
I couldn't think of anybody else.
And big shout out because the first stuff I saw him in was like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. And I thought he was going to fizzle out after those movies. Which, by the way, I love those movies. Some of my favorite movies, but I thought he was definitely going to just fizzle out. And the fact that he's stayed around, been a monumental character in the Mission Impossible movies, has done other shit. I fucking love the dude.
Yeah, I gave them a 6.5. You were a little higher than me, but Simon Pegg, he is the absolute perfect person for this role. I actually wrote down Marvel should have casted him in this recent franchise. I know he doesn't look like a superhero. He's not super built. I don't know, bro. Yeah, sure. I think even just having him in there as like Robin from How I Met Your
Yes.
Mother, just doing something like that would have added so much comedic aspect to those movies when they get these actors that just like Chris Evans is so fucking dry. They could have just had someone like him in there to add jokes and stuff. I think he would have fit perfectly in that mold. I mean, he would have been great in Thunderbolts if they just had him be like Selena Meyer's henchman or something,
Yeah.
like one of his aides. But going back to my point, they had Luther die in the same exact way that all three of these characters, who, I'm not going to lie, I didn't really give a fuck if any of those guys died. I care way more about Luther. He's been in all the movies, basically. And it could be a contractual thing with Ving Rhames, like I was mentioning before. But get a little more creative. Just watch Ving Rhames, like, sacrifice himself on screen. Like, take a bullet for Ethan or something.
The fact that 2 times in this movie, there has been, like, a quadrillion-ton nuke in some underground lair. And both times, the people there are like, hey, guess what? We can stop it from nuking the entire country, but it's gonna blow up, like, where we're at right now. And, of course, Luther couldn't do it, but then the scientist man could. And,
Yeah.
like, the fact that they even tried to make it seem like they died, but then they appear out the darkness, it's like, come on, bro.
I don't have an issue with that. It's just the fact that Ving Rhames is not given a proper send-off, in my opinion. I thought it was really... And again, it was so drawn out. Him and Ethan are just, like, looking at each other. I thought they were going to fuck, you know? They're just
Also-
locked eyes.
Also, there was, like, a minute 30 left on that timer, and they were talking for, like, 7.
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
but
maybe I'm spoiled from Warfare, where it's, like, real time. Because when they're talking, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it has been like 10 minutes now.
Yeah, and I liked how he just watched Gabriel break the latch. I mean, if it was Warfare, they would have stood up and tried to stab him or something while he was doing that. But no, I was just really disappointed with that whole send-off. And here's another thing about the characters that I think this movie, maybe this is the main reason why I don't like this one that much, is the AI shit to me is so less of a good villain than an actual human being. I mean, we've been spoiled in this franchise. We've had, like, John Voight, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Anthony Hopkins, you know, even this guy, Asai Morales, he's the villain in the first season of Ozark. I'm not going to spoil that whole show, but you know what happens in there. Mm-hmm. He's a great villain, and more so in Dead Reckoning, he's acting as the main villain. It's not just like this fucking entity. I think it just it makes me not as invested into the plot because it's just fucking AI, and I understand
Another
that
way AI is ruining movies, bro.
Right. It's case in point right there. I just think it would have been way better had they made just some really evil villain, and because Tom Cruise kills him in the end, and then I get they create this whole scenario where Haley Atwell. Yeah, that was a great scene. We'll get to that in a bit, and it's just that whole aspect to me was really dumb, and it took away from what could have been a lot more of a evil villain that I really want to, like, root against. But it's a fucking entity. It kind of looked really cool.
Yeah,
when they would just show.
But no, I totally agree with that point, and I honestly didn't think about that before. But all these movies coming out where it's just AI being able to rewrite reality and blackmail people and control all these different things, it's just getting so drawn out. I was fine when Eagle Eye came out with Shia LaBeouf. I thought that was the coolest movie of all time. I was like, this shit is sick. This AI thing is making a crane crash into Shia LaBeouf's building and he's jumping out of it. And now it's like, get it off the screen. I don't want to see it anymore. I want to see who the new big bad villain is, not this ominous AI entity that's controlling everything.
Right, and I think, like I said before, Asai Morales, he's a great villain. I think he does play that role really well. Like, I fucking hate him. He killed Luther and whatever. He does a good job playing that role, and then he just takes this back seat to an artificial thing. He's got... It just lacked a lot of substance for me, and that's kind of why I wasn't a huge fan of it. But 6'5" is where I'm at, because, I mean, Ethan Hunt, you could argue with a wall for days, years about who the best secret agent is. But I just want to give an ode to how his thing is, right? You have James Bond, and James Bond's super suave. He goes in. It might not always be by the book, but he's usually the baddest motherfucker in the room, and he's just a stone cold killer. Like, he will fucking kill anybody. He has no emotional ties to anybody, really. You got Jason Bourne, who's just like a machine. John Wick, kind of the same way, but he's better with like hand-to-hand combat, I would say. But the thing that I love about
just gunfighting too. John Wick is incredible.
Right. Like that's what I mean. You could pick whichever one of these secret agents you like the most. The thing that Ethan Hunt does better than all of them, though, in all these movies is they add this aspect of realism where he's doing these ridiculous stunts. Like, he's underwater for 30 minutes or whatever, and his bag gets attached to a sinking submarine as he's like swimming away, and he's got to adjust to shit on the fly. And he's on a biplane, and the plane's like internal structure starts breaking as he's trying to grab onto the next plane. In previous movies, he's in Rogue Nation. He's on the side of that the military plane.
One of the
it takes off. Action sequences. His feet give out, and Benji's opening the wrong door for him, and he's like, "Benji, come on, open the fucking right door," or whatever. They always add this element to show you how crazy the shit he's doing is, and it just makes it even more nuts. Like, Ghost Protocol, I think that's the best stunt they've ever done with the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah,
and I mean, even in that one,
that picture of him where he's sitting on top, no harnesses or anything, bare feet, just chilling there. One of the most badass pictures.
So that's probably a good transition here to cinematography. So like, I went 9.7, you went 9.0. Tom Cruise, he's just a legend. There's nobody else doing the things he's doing right now, and I've seen people online saying that, like, the haters of this movie will say that, yeah, you have CGI now, so this stuff isn't probably as necessary anymore because the CGI keeps getting better and better. But to me, it just creates a whole other aspect of danger when you're watching it, and these elements of realism where he has so many forks in his road as he's going along, and it just makes the stunt look even crazier. Like, I did some digging into the biplane stunt. They haven't released all the behind the scenes footage or any of that matter, but they had to wait they had 2 planes of each color in case one of them broke. They had to fly them on low fuel, and they had to fly them not on too hot of a day because the planes can't turn as well if there's no condensation in the air. But if it got too cold, then they risked Tom Cruise getting hypothermia. So they had to, like, they literally had to create a sign language as well. You might have seen this, to where he could give a thumbs up or so just to indicate he wasn't actually unconscious. He was just like, had his eyes closed because the force and the G-forces of like the wind and stuff getting into his face is so vast. And apparently it's the way he breathes up there is so diminished because it's so hard to encapsulate air into your lungs. Just the wind whipping at your face, you can't gather as much oxygen. And he was just tied into the wing of that fucking plane. And I don't know how many times he did the stunt. Probably like fucking 9 90. Or something because he's crazy.
I would think he's doing it like 30 times.
He did that. Insane. He did the plane stunt in Rogue Nation 8 times, where he was dangling on the side of that plane. It just took off and landed, and we had like to not give this at least a 9 is severe injustice to Tom Cruise and like what he does for the movie industry. It is, and I get it if you're like not a big movie buff and you can't spot the difference between CGI and realism, but Sean and we watch way too many movies, and you can fucking tell that this is real. I mean, even when they're just flying those planes really low to the ground, that in itself is so dangerous. And the biggest risk that they had doing that stunt was him holding onto the plane with just a rock or a camera or a piece of debris popping up and hitting him. It could have been fatal. Well, and that was their biggest concern.
That was the big thing, too, when he's hanging off the side of the cargo plane. I remember I watched a video where they're talking about that, and they were concerned about birds flying past, the camera getting unlodged and hitting him in the face at that speed. I mean, the things he does for these Mission Impossible movies, but also he goes above and beyond for any movie he's in. And I would just hate to be a castmate on one of his movies because I know he's gonna like kill you and then revive you just to prove a point or get you into these crazy action sequences. He's like, yeah, Sean, I need you to do a dirt bike backflip across the Grand Canyon for me for this movie.
He just pushes he just pushes the mold more and more. His next movie is actually the SpaceX one. I don't know if you've seen this. It's going to be the first movie ever. It's going to be the first movie ever filmed entirely in space. It's all being filmed like with space. He's filming it with SpaceX. Like they're the ones taking him up to do it. It's going to be probably fucking crazy. I'm imagining just gravity, but not CGI at all. It's going to probably be insane.
Leave it up to Tom Cruise, bro, to do that shit.
Right. I will be in IMAX opening night watching that shit for sure. Do you want to just rank all of them
If you
now?
watch it in like 4D or the D-Box thing, you're just like floating while watching the movie.
Yeah, they take the oxygen out of the theater so you get a real-time experience of what's going on. No, I mean, Tom Cruise is just a legend, and that's basically what all the cinematography is about. I mean, the score of Mission Impossible is legendary as well. It is constantly, that theme song is so good, and they just do a great job of making everything more grand and just highlighting what is actually happening on your screen, because it's not anything you're seeing in any sort of action movie nowadays. Like the CGI will just take a front seat to real-time stunts because we just don't have... Tom Cruise is the last real action star. He is.
Got it.
Maybe that will change. Maybe that will change in time. We get another Psycho out here doing something similar, but he's just in a league of his own. And I don't think he's the best actor, like method-wise. He's not a bad actor by any means, though. I think he can play comedic roles pretty... Like, he's good at getting those whimsical jokes off. Not as well as Simon Pegg, but
dude, his
they
role
have a
in
great
Tropic
rapport.
Thunder is hilarious. Like, he's definitely a great actor, but
yeah,
he hones in his talents on action sequences, and he's not afraid to do anything.
He earns that actor's salary that we're all enamored with. Like, this guy got $30 million to do this fucking movie. Like, Tom Cruise earns that fucking money. You could not pay me. You couldn't pay me $500 million to do one of those stunts that he does. I would never fucking do that shit.
Oh, wow. I don't know. You give me like a 3 McDoubles from McDonald's, and I might be strapping myself to the side of a cargo plane.
Well, the thing with that is you have to go through extensive training to even do that. At least in Fallout, Henry Cavill wanted to do that Halo jump with him in the beginning, and they wouldn't let him because he didn't have any training, and they literally thought he would have died. Yeah, so he was pissed about it at the time, but I mean, you can't, obviously, that's a huge liability. And Tom Cruise just does this shit. I imagine Tom Cruise just wakes up every day and, like, goes skydiving at, 8:30, eats, like, probably hunts his own food, right?
His agent definitely
like
wakes up from nightmares in the middle of the night with, like, cold sweats. His agent is just having dreams of the most outlandish shit Tom Cruise could be doing. It's just like... What?
Yeah, his life insurance agent is living on the real edge. Yeah, that guy's a fucking nut job, whoever he is. Shout out to you.
He's doing
what?
Rank
all the outside of a plane? What the fuck? Let's rank all the movies now before we get into the writing. I think the best way to do this is we just start. There's 8 total, including this one. So we start with 8 and just work our way up to 1, and we can kind of talk about it if there's a huge discrepancy. But what was your 8th movie?
For me, it's going to be Mission Impossible 2, the second one.
Yep,
that's movie.
That's mine as well.
So I know there's kind of like widespread hate around the movie, or not hate, but just this general idea that it was the worst of the Mission Impossible movies. For me personally, it was because it was on FX every single day when I got home from school, and I was like, I need to see another movie, but this is the only movie on TV. I fucking hate this.
Yeah, it's kind of a mid. I would call it a pretty mid action movie in general. There's just really outdated stunts and stuff. Actually, Hans Zimmer did the score for that movie. I saw that the other day when I was actually rewatching a bunch of these, but yeah, that would be mine as well. Number 7 for me, it might be this one. Honestly, I would probably put this at 7. Yeah, it's right there with my 6th movie, but I'll get to that one in a second.
For 7 for me, it might be Rogue Nation.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have that one way later. So why didn't you like Rogue Nation?
It just didn't really. Wait, was Rogue Nation the one with Henry Cavill?
No, that's Fallout.
Okay, yeah, Fallout. I fucked with Rogue Nation. I don't know. It just didn't really hit for me. And granted, it's been a while since I've seen these movies, but yeah, I have certain places for my other movies.
The part of Rogue Nation that stands out to me is when he's underwater for like 3 minutes and then they resuscitate him and then he immediately is driving a car like 150 miles an hour and he's like can't even open his eyes. It's an all-time classic scene in my opinion. But it's your opinion.
Or sorry. Let's finish the rankings real quick.
Yeah. Okay. So my next one is Mission 3, the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Okay. Mission Impossible 3 is my 6th.
Okay, we're right on par there. Then, number 5, I would say Dead Reckoning.
Okay, number 5 for me is Fallout.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have... I think Fallout... Okay, we'll keep going.
Okay.
We're going to keep going here. So, Fallout is 5 for you, Dead Reckoning 5 for me. Number 4, I have the first one, the original.
Okay, number 4, I have Dead Reckoning.
Okay. So those are similar. I also have these tiered. So I have Dead Reckoning, Mission 1, and then the next 2 in like the same tier for me. They're kind of give or take. I have Rogue Nation as 3, which you obviously already said.
Yep. And I have
What's your third one?
I have Ghost Protocol at 3.
Okay, I have Ghost Protocol at 2. So we're right there. I think Ghost Protocol is arguably the best one, but I think the one above it... So you already know my second, so you say your second one.
Well, my second is Mission Impossible 3.
Okay. Okay. And then my first one is Fallout. I think Fallout is by far the best one.
Really?
And the Halo... I just rewatched it pretty recently, but the Halo jump scene is fucking crazy. And then Henry Cavill is a great co-star in that movie. I mean, that bathroom fight scene where they're fighting John Mark and just more guys keep coming in. That, to me, was more like what the Final Reckoning should have been. They take out all the pointless talking and shit, and there's just a lot more... It's just nonstop climax action scenes over and over. I really think Fallout... I think a lot of people like Ghost Protocol a lot, too, and obviously the original. So, your one is the original?
Yeah.
What's your... Okay. Yeah, I mean, I respect that. I think the first one, like I was saying, is very good. I put those... 5 in like a tier. I have Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Mission 1, and Dead Reckoning in that second tier, and then Mission 3 and Final Reckoning right below that. And then Mission 2 is at the bottom. So interesting. Yeah. I think that it's kind of give or take. Like I don't think there's a for sure best one, but in my opinion I just really fucked with the Henry Cavill one. But all right. Let's do the writing and then we'll wrap it up here. So, this plot, like we've mentioned, I just think it was super lazy. The whole like entity, the amount of times they just indicate that their actions are actually the opposite of what the entity would want you to do, or vice versa. It got so redundant to a point where I was just like, just show me the fucking action. I don't care. Like, we know what's gonna happen here. It's Tom Cruise is gonna. It's gonna end up with him fighting Asai Morales in the very end. Like I've seen the trailer. I kind of know what's gonna happen here, and the amount of times they just said the word "the entity" was just pissing me off. They
had to reach a word count.
Dude, take a shot every time they say that. It's actually crazy.
We don't recommend that.
No,
you will
don't
die.
do that. You'll never finish this movie because it's that long, and you will be taking probably
An
25
ungodly
shots.
amount of shots, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. The dialogue was definitely the weakest part of the movie, or the writing, the plot. We've seen this plot before too. It's just like I get it. The stakes were super high. I mean, it's the end of the fucking world, but this AI thing controlling all the nukes across the world, setting them off on each other because people think everyone is going crazy. I mean, it is what it is. It's just the most outlandish shit ever. And we kind of talked about this on the last podcast, where when movies have a bunch of sequels and it's this big film franchise, they start to fold in on themselves and start making fun of themselves. We've seen it in Fast and Furious. We saw it with Final Destination. Mission Impossible, it's like, I can't tell if they're making fun of themselves, but the stunts and the action sequences get so outlandish. It's like, they gotta be. Like, the fact that Ethan Hunt sent his coordinates, got dragged down by a submarine, and took his mask off and just swam his way up to where there's an ice sheet, hoping his team has the exact coordinates of where he'll be and they'll cut him out the ice. I mean, it's like, what are we doing here? That's not happening. That's never happening.
We've got it.
And I get it. It's Mission Impossible. It's not supposed to, but
Right.
come on. They got to know it's so crazy.
His parachute is completely engulfed in flames, and I assume his backup parachute is the one that ends up working. I thought it would have been cool, and my brother actually said this to me, that when he's listening to Luther's tape at the end, it would have been cool if he was just dead, and then he was just talking to Luther, because Luther could, they're both just talking in the afterlife, but I don't even think they get that far.
Bing Rings was far gone from set.
He showed up on day one, and he was like,
said,
give me my lines. He's like, I'm going to be in a bunker designing some computer chip, and then I'm fucking out.
Give me my hospital gown, get me underneath ground, and let me say my 10 lines, and I'm gone.
Yeah.
He's like, honestly, just blow me up. I don't even care.
Right. I don't even want fake blood on me. I just want to be off screen.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him. I mean, there were just so many parts that were just dragging this movie. And it was just it was still definitely a letdown for me. I will rewatch it when it's out of theaters, but just in terms of the overall franchise, it just didn't live up to the mold. Going back to Fallout, I think that one was way better written. I think Ghost Protocol as well. Just some of the earlier ones. The original obviously has a much more interesting plot to me, and this is way more hyper-focused on the stunt work and just the wow factor. And I totally understand it. These are just blockbuster movies, and they're trying to get asses in seats. There were asses in seats when I saw it, and they're gonna probably do this again, like you mentioned, with another guy playing the role, maybe Ethan Hunt's son or something like that. Glenn Powell or something.
There's some like 6-year-old out there right now who's the biggest theater kid in the world, and he's going to be blessed with getting the reboot to Mission Impossible. Or maybe it'll be some small girl. She'll be Ethiana Hunt.
That definitely won't flop if that happens. I think it'll get rebooted quicker than you think. I bet you it'll be like a Bourne situation where you have like Jeremy Renner playing that. Tom Cruise will still be there.
Yes, they're gonna try to get an old Tom Cruise as a cameo for sure.
I said Miles Teller. I floated that idea out to some of my friends, and they didn't really like that. But I don't know. He's a bigger name. I think maybe the Night Agent or just one of these. Really
that dude Gabriel Basso or whatever his name is. He's dope. Because he does a lot of his own shit too. He does like jujitsu, he fights, he fucking rides motorcycles. Tom Cruise can't get away from Top Gun Maverick, man. That man's gonna be flying planes till he's 110.
I think they're gonna make another Top Gun too. I would imagine they would after the reception from the last one. Maybe they don't. I mean, I'd be cool if they just ended it there, but
They gotta make another one, right? After how good Top Gun Maverick was. Do you agree that Top Gun
Yeah.
Maverick's better than the original?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But I didn't grow up in that time period. I think some people might disagree with me, but I know people that did, and they think Top Gun Maverick's better. They use all the same elements.
Yeah.
It's not.
Except it was just
They-
it looked way better.
Yeah, they don't ruin the IP at all, and the supporting cast is way better. I mean, I understand the lore of Goose, but I mean Miles Teller,
Bob.
Glenn Powell, Bob. Come on now, that movie is fucking awesome. Tom Cruise is fucking awesome. The writing is just, it's just blah. It is what it
Yeah.
is.
I will
and
say, I
that's-
think what knocked the writing quite a bit was that first hour of it just being an homage to all the previous Mission Impossible movies. It was hard to kind of follow along a little bit. And maybe that was just me because I'd been traveling a lot and I was pretty tired. We went to a late show on Sunday night, right when I got back from Georgia. But I was just like, what? Can we get along to the story? What is going on here?
Yeah, the pacing was just really horrible, I would say, in general. There was just way too many filler lines. Just
Yeah.
instances that they should have cut. I honestly just don't think they really edited this very well. I think they could have went back and really taken a final copy of this that was like 2 hours, and it would have been a far better movie.
No, agreed. And like I said, with the whole Dead Reckoning, Final Reckoning, I feel like because the lore around the stunts has grown so big, they just kind of throw shit into the movie and they're just waiting for the audience to get to the point where they get to watch this grand stunt, which is dope,
Yeah.
but it takes away from the movie.
We've also had stunts in the recent movies. They happen very early on, especially in, I mean, Dead Reckoning. I think there's like that motorcycle chase in the desert. I haven't rewatched that one recently, but I do remember that opening scene when Rebecca Ferguson and him are in like Egypt or something, and they're, you know, like in a gunfight. It was sick.
Yeah.
And I thought that, dude, they really had a great setting, and this just goes back to like the urban. I think it lacked a lot of urban settings. They had this huge protest going on. Tom Cruise walks out, and I was getting goosebumps. I was like, what the hell is going to happen right now? And then all that happens is he goes into a tunnel, and then they like leave. I think they really could have used that setting a lot better to just grasp my attention, because it was so, the hook was terrible. If you've never seen Mission Impossible and went and watched this one, you would not understand why.
Yeah. You
Respectfully,
wouldn't be
why
as big of a fan
everyone's
of the
obsessed with it.
series.
Not at all. And these other stunts we've mentioned, like Rogue Nation, he's got that plane. He's holding onto the plane right at the beginning, and it's just, it did not have that attention grabbing moment, and you have to wait an hour or so until Mr. Milchek shows up on screen before anything starts going on.
We didn't talk
Yeah, I
about
almost
him.
He's great. I mean,
fantastic.
That guy's gonna just get more roles. What did he say? You must be out your damn mind.
His like stone cold face is perfect. But then he can break out into like a creepy smile, and you're like, "Ooh, is this guy bad or good? I don't know."
He's an awesome character. I actually do not know his actor name off the top of my head, but
Milchek.
I should give him a shout out. Yeah, Mr. Milchek. But yeah, that's Mission Impossible for you. I don't really have much more to add. Like, the writing was just a big letdown. If you've seen it, you probably agree with us there. It's going to get a final score here of a 7.6, which is probably
Pretty
right on
high,
cue with most of these. The cinematography is definitely dragging it way up, and these have rewatchability. I mean, I'm not going to say that I wouldn't recommend this to a friend. If they've seen action movies and they like that sort of thing, I would tell them to go watch it. It's not maybe a necessity to go see in theaters. I did like it more in IMAX too, versus like the standard def, but
I would imagine,
or high def, whatever.
Because I watched it in standard, and some of the shots, I don't know if it was just me being tired, but some of the shots and the aspect ratios looked a little off to me. I was like, why does the character look so thin when they shouldn't be?
That made me remember a funny thing before we go. The fact that the woman had Tom Cruise take his suit, and he was like her suit fit him was so funny because he's like 5'6" or whatever.
She's like, take care of it.
I don't know.
And he just completely destroys it.
Of course he does, yeah. He swims through, negative degree water.
Yeah.
Or it can't be negative degrees, it would be ice, but that whole shit was fucking ridiculous. Yeah. Also, come on, you're going to set us up with a polar bear, potentially? Like Haley Atwell running into a polar bear, and we don't get a fucking polar bear? Come on. That would have been so fucking cool. Like, Tom Cruise arrives to the surface, he's, like, on the bends, and then he, like, stabs a polar bear or something. Come on.
Nah, but the thing is, though, Tom Cruise, they probably talked about that, and Tom Cruise was like, all right, so I need a real polar bear. I want you to get really angry. And the director was like, we gotta cut this one.
He's like, don't feed it for a week. Just like let it on set hungry as shit and just like watch me kill it.
That was definitely in the original script, which is why Ving Rhames was like, I'm out of here. Kill my character off. I'm not fucking with no polar bear.
I don't want to watch this guy get mauled to death. And on that note, that's gonna do it for this episode. Like I said, 7.6 out of 10. Solid score, not the best movie, not the worst movie. Yeah. If you like action movies, go check it out. And go check out our scores on our website. We'll link that in our bio. We'll also be back next Tuesday with another one. Until then, peace out.
Deuces.